Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. This is your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. And I'm Dr. Benjamin Alter, the host of this podcast. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor, practice holistic lifestyle medicine, specifically whole food, plant-based nutrition, and mind-body medicine. And my mission is to empower you as your own healer. I'm not the healer, you are, you know that. Anyways, this week on the podcast, we've got a special episode. This week, I'm sharing an excerpt from our latest Whole Food Plant-Based Challenge. The Whole Food Plant-Based Challenge is a regular, recurring event that we host, Dr. Susanna and myself, in the Plant-Based and Stress-Free Facebook group, which, by the way, is a totally awesome, free, open group for you to join if you're not already in there. This Facebook group is filled with a lot of people who are looking in the direction of eating more whole food, plant-based nutrition, and also understanding how to live in the world in a peaceful way because it's plant-based and stress-free. We understand the impact that stress has on our life, on our immune system, on our health. So it's important to develop a relationship with stress that is nourishing, right? I would guess that you agree. Anyways, this latest Whole Food Plant-Based Challenge was all geared toward the immune system. It was called the Immune Series. And we're sharing an excerpt from our question and answer session, which was over an hour of really great questions spanning a whole array of topics, really all having to do with food though, even though we covered more than just food in the Whole Food Plant-Based Challenge. We covered other aspects of lifestyle that support your immune system in being resilient and robust. But anyway, most people are really concerned about food. So we answer a lot of great questions when it comes to food and whole food plant-based nutrition. So hopefully you get a lot out of hearing these answers as well. Maybe you've had similar questions in the past, or maybe you do have similar questions. And maybe you still have a lot of questions pertaining to whole food plant-based nutrition. And if you do, once again, we just invite you to come on into the group and join the like-minded people who are living and eating this nutrient-dense, whole food, plant-based lifestyle. So toward the end of this question and answer series, Susanna and myself, we start talking a little bit. I kind of edited some stuff out and cut it off short, of course, but we talk a little bit about the upcoming mastermind program that we're hosting. It's actually an ongoing program, but we open up enrollment every 8 weeks or so for a new batch of people to come on in. And this 6-month mastermind program is designed to support people in living this, because it's one thing to have the information. It's quite another thing to implement that information in your life. And that's really where we have identified a huge gap, because there's really no shortage of information, but there is a shortage of health promoting action and transformation in this world. So anyways, enrollment to this mastermind is open for a limited period of time. And if you're listening to this, it's probably a little too late, but you can learn more and actually apply for the next enrollment period of the mastermind program. You can find out more at www.alter.health/mastermind and fill out an application there. Also, just one last call to action here. Come on into the Facebook group. I think I've said it 3 times in this introduction, but it is a great place to be, a great place to tune into these whole food plant-based challenges. We also host a Medicinal Monday chat and our Alter Your Health Live, which you get on this podcast as well. It's a live recording that we do every Thursday in the Plant-Based and Stress-Free Facebook group. All right, enough about that Facebook group, enough about the Whole Food Plant-Based Challenge, enough about the mastermind. Let's get into some really awesome questions pertaining to all aspects of whole food plant-based nutrition.
everyone, and welcome to session number 6 of the Whole Food Plant-Based Challenge, our live Q&A session. I'm Dr. Susanna Alter.
And I'm Dr. Benjamin Alter.
And we're both naturopathic doctors who support individuals in reversing disease and reclaiming optimal health through whole food plant-based nutrition and mind-body medicine.
We hope you have already learned a lot and have integrated and implemented a lot into your day-to-day life throughout this whole food plant-based challenge. We invite you to let us know where you're coming in from, and also feel free to share some win, something that you have learned or gained or experienced or felt in your body, something new. At this point, 5 days into the challenge, or this is our 6th day of the challenge, but 5 full days into the challenge, you might be feeling a little bit new and different. So we invite you to share that with us all.
Yes. Yeah, so let's just go over some of the few logistics we have. Remember that tomorrow we're taking a day off, no live session. So it's a great day to catch up on any videos you might have missed earlier this week. And we'll be back on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Monday is a really special session because we'll actually have a guest with us. And we're going to be talking a little bit with one of the members in our mastermind program, talking about really the reality of implementing this way of eating for sustainable health and immunity.
Living, not eating. Eating is a part of living, but it's called medicinal living.
Yes.
So it's not medicinal eating because it's more, your health is more than just food. But in terms of, I'm sure a lot of the questions that you guys have that we're going to get into are probably food related, and that's all right. That's where people tend to get hung up on. And when we look at maybe the leading cause of death in the world, it's really food. It's food-borne illness. And I'm not talking about like pathogens from that are slipping into our food. I'm talking about food-borne illness, meaning like the food that we're eating is literally killing us or shortening our lives or leading to diminished quality of life. So I'm drinking lemon water that has some ginger in it. Lemon ginger water.
Delicious. Okay, well, let's give away our prize for today. And today we're giving away a $25 gift card to Amazon or the store of your choice. And
as long as you're using that money, those $25, to buy something nourishing for you. It doesn't have to be food or like any sort of supplement or anything like that, but just something nourishing.
Yes.
So The giveaway for today goes to number 51, who we've got our list here that Susanna's in charge of, and we trust what's going on.
Linda Salatrinsky. Did I say your last name right? Salatrinsky.
Yeah,
Linda is here. See. Congratulations, Linda.
Linda loves understanding how the organs like the liver work and how to help them.
All right.
And now, Linda, you have $25 to your favorite place to spend money.
Yes, we'll be in touch with you about what email address to send that to. And just to let you know, we still have 2 more days of giving away prizes, and the prizes are getting bigger.
Well, that is if you like to spend time with us. They're getting bigger.
Yeah, that's true. So on Monday and Tuesday, we'll be giving away a free 60-minute one-on-one session with myself or Dr. Benjamin. You get to choose. And in order to qualify to win those prizes, you need to show up live today like you are doing and do your homework for the weekend. So
without any more blabbering to do,
let's answer some questions. This is honestly one of my favorite days of the week.
It's totally the favorite day because we're able to actually speak directly to what you guys want to learn rather than what we want to say, right?
Yes.
So no agenda here. We just want to support you in, like you said, Linda, just really deeply understanding what's going on so that you can live your best life forever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So the questions are going to be coming in, and we are going to just go, from top to bottom, addressing all of them. So did we already miss one? Was there one?
I didn't see any question yet. I just saw, what am I drinking?
What powders do you use for basic green powder for smoothies?
Reen asks, if making a basic green powder for smoothies, what powders do you use? Our favorite powders you might know, we've talked about it before, we kind of mix our favorite powders, like we get a pound of this, a pound of that, a pound of that, a pound of that, and we put it in a big pot or a big bowl and we stir it up, and then we put it in a big bag, and then we put it in mason jars and, just do a tablespoon in a smoothie each day. And that lasts us, if we got like 4 or 5 pounds of powder, that lasts us a good 6 months or so, at least, the two of us.
Yeah.
So our favorite powders, nutritional green powders, are, we'll go back and forth. Barley grass juice powder.
Spirulina.
Wheatgrass juice powder.
Moringa powder.
Nettle leaf powder.
That's about it. Those are the 5 that we rotate between. So yeah, and they're always delicious and so nutritious, and we typically do a tablespoon of that mixture in our smoothie every day.
Just kind of a 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio, just greens.
Hello, Zuzana.
Hello, Zuzana.
It's great to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, Linda has a question. Is drinking ice water not during meals okay? And yes, this is something that we don't recommend doing. Warm water is okay. Warm water with lemon is great because there's actually some natural enzymes in the water, in the lemon. But cold ice water can dampen our digestive fire. Put in another scientific way, it dilutes the hydrochloric acid in the stomach. And we need strong hydrochloric acid in order to digest food fully, completely, so that we can absorb the nutrients from it.
And then just consider, you're sitting on a beach on a nice summer day, and there's the cold ocean in front of you, and you just run up onto a cliff, and you jump off a cliff into the cold ocean water. Your body is going to react, and you're going to go, you're going to do that when you land in the cold ocean water. And that is effectively what takes place when you put 30, 40, 50 degree water in your 98.6 degree stomach. Your stomach kind of has that response, which is not really conducive to optimal digestion.
Yes.
Benita has a question about canned beans and canned goods are a no-no, correct? Not necessarily. We are huge advocates for having at least canned beans and some canned vegetables on hand. We don't cook with them as staples all the time, but it's certainly good to have a can of beans just to go to in a pinch, right? Because we can crack it open and have real whole food at our fingertips in a flash. The thing we have to look for in terms of canned beans and canned food in general is the BPA in the can. Most cans nowadays are BPA free. That's become pretty much the standard. The other thing is the other ingredients. Specifically, when it comes to canned food, it's sodium. Sodium sneaks into a lot of canned and packaged foods. We know that. And sodium is it's like you don't even necessarily taste it in canned beans. It's just they pile it in there for some reason, or maybe you do taste it. If it's
Depends.
really,
Depends on your taste buds.
But the fact of the matter is that's how they can sneak in some sodium to get you wired and to spike your dopamine on some weird level. So we've got to look for those kind of things. Other ingredients are like citric acid,
and sugar.
Yeah.
So, otherwise beans, if you don't have a pressure cooker, can take several hours to make. So we like having these kind of emergency foods in the cupboard so that when you are starving but don't have very much time to prepare food, you still have something that's healthy in the cupboard that you can whip up really quickly so that you're not calling takeout and getting something that wouldn't be healthy.
Totally. This is a good one. You want to do that one?
Yeah, can you discuss how to relieve sinus pressure naturally? Maybe hot teas. So with symptoms like this, it's really, really important that we address the underlying cause of what is causing the sinus pressure, because we do have a lot of natural tips for, symptom relief, but that's just going to help make you feel better in the moment.
What comes to mind for me in terms of symptom relief, because, sinus pressure is either due to allergies or some sort of bacterial or viral infection. Those are the main causes, right? Allergies or mold, yeah, for sure, and which is kind of an allergy. But allergies, you want to address the immune system for sure. But in terms of symptom relief, one of the best things that we can do, which also kind of activates the immune system in the process, is a steam inhalation. So you can boil a pot of water and throw in some dried herbs like oregano and thyme, Those are great ones since they have really strong antimicrobial properties. Also, rosemary and sage and things like that. And then you can take the water off the stove, but it's still really hot. It's steaming, and then you can drape a towel over your head and breathe in that steam for at least a few minutes and do a few rounds of that. And doing that 2 or 3 times a day will really, add bring some health and bring some fresh blood flow to the sinus passageways, to the mucous membranes in the sinuses. And that's a good way to just keep things going. The other real important thing is to avoid things like decongestants that dry you out, because you want to keep things moving and running, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Lona, does flaxseed already ground not produce the same results? And this is compared to flaxseed that you grind at home. And so the thing about buying flaxseed already ground up is that you have no idea how long it's been sitting on the shelf for. And when we grind up any kind of seed, it's prone to oxidation. And another word for that is it's prone to go rancid. And especially the oils in flaxseed, they're polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are most prone to go rancid in the smallest amount of time. So, yes, I mean, you could certainly lose some of that nutritional value with the flaxseed being ground just sitting on the shelf for a long period of time. But what's more of a concern is the rancidity, because rancid oils are pro-oxidative and can harm our cardiovascular system and increase overall inflammation in the body. So we definitely recommend grinding your own flax seeds at home. You can do a big batch of it and then store it in the freezer. And it's still easy to scoop out. Even if it's in the freezer, it doesn't really stick together. So, yeah.
And then if you are like me and you just put your flax seeds or chia seeds in your smoothie and you have an awesome blender like we totally advocate for, it's totally worth the investment, like a Vitamix specifically. Vitamix is far and away the best. So if you do have a Vitamix, you can just put your whole flax seeds in the Vitamix, and the Vitamix will take care of grinding them up and activating and releasing all of your beneficial omega-3 fats and all that good stuff. What about whole wheat bread? Whole wheat bread. Well, whole wheat bread, processed and refined grains, we talk about this a lot, mainly in the context with clients and patients and whatnot. But all of these processed and refined foods exist on a spectrum, right? There's the fresh ground, grandma made the fresh bread. She ground her own grain and then she just added water and yeast. I don't even know what goes into bread. And then she put it in the oven and it's fresh baked, right? And that's on one end of the processed grain spectrum. And then there's like the white Wonder Bread, the Thomas English muffins, the Lucky Charms, the bleached white flour and the things that we make from that, the pastries and whatnot. So, between the fresh made 2 ingredient bread and then the hyper processed food that is shelf stable, that stays on the shelf for months and months at a time, there's a big spectrum. There's a lot between that, right? So, there's a time and place, and it's all totally okay in quote unquote moderation based on your health status, your health goals, choosing those minimally processed quote unquote whole grains that aren't intact, but they're still whole because they have been ground with the whole, with an H, not a W, with the whole on. So that's what makes it whole wheat, even though it's processed and refined, or not minimally refined.
Yeah, I would say a lot of store-bought whole wheat bread for us would be a red light food, a food to just avoid.
Yeah.
There are some specific brands that are a yellow light food, like Ezekiel bread is sprouted and it's, less processed. And so it really, really depends on your health goals. For people who are wanting to really reverse disease, or for people who are kind of have plateaued in their healing or in their weight loss, these yellow light foods are probably better to be avoided, or not totally avoided, but really minimized, so that you can focus on more of the healing foods.
Totally. It just comes down to the fact that we like to point out that every time you open up your mouth and you put something in your mouth, that's an opportunity to move your body into greater states of health. And, we see things like a real, hearty whole wheat bread that's not totally processed, not a lot of additives, preservatives, chemicals, organic, all that good stuff. We see that as just kind of a source of calories, not really high in nutrient density or anything like that. It's got some fiber, yes, but the fact of the matter is that whole intact whole grains, the wheat berries, the brown rice instead of the brown rice pasta, the quinoa instead of the quinoa pasta, the whole steel cut oats instead of the oat flour. Those whole intact grains have more fiber and also more nutrient density, because the moment, similarly with grinding the flax seeds, the moment we grind those grains, all of those micronutrients, antioxidants, and vitamins and minerals and whatnot are prone to the environment and oxidation, and they just kind of slowly degrade over time. So we want to really focus on the whole intact grains that, they're totally, contained. And then our metabolism, our digestive system breaks them down and unlocks all of those nutrients that are stored within them. And those are also the greatest source of fiber, which we've talked about a lot when it comes to the immune system as being a critical component for nourishing and optimizing your gut health, your microbiome, and fortifying your resilience system on that level.
Yes. So, do you guys use B12? Yes, we do. We take a supplement, a vegan supplement for B12.
It's called Vegan Safe, right? The B12 that we like. It's a mixture of methylcobalamin and adenosylcobalamin.
Yeah, 2 different forms of B12. It's on our Medicinary website. And because our food supply is no longer really, do you want to do the whole B12 talk?
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah, we do take B12, and we do recommend that you take B12 if you're eating exclusively a plant-based diet. And if you're not eating exclusively a plant-based diet and you're eating animal products, then the animals are taking B12 supplements, so you get your B12 through them. But B12 is not like something, you probably know this, it's not something that is found in meats or found in animal products or is made in animal products.
Yes, it's the bacteria that makes B12.
Foods, what would be most beneficial to eat for a fatty liver?
It would be most beneficial to eat a whole food plant-based diet.
Yes.
100%.
100%. 100%. Specifically, fruits and vegetables and whole grains and legumes. And when we're talking about fatty liver, the key word in there is fatty. Do you know what makes a liver fatty? Well, if it's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is the most common form, or non-alcoholic steatohepatitis or NASH or NAFLD, that's the most common form of fatty liver disease. Since alcohol is not causing the fatty liver disease, it's fat. So focusing on a whole food plant-based diet that's naturally low in fat is really key, naturally high in nutrient density. Also really, focusing on hydration, on stress, on all of these things, because stress and the hormones associated with stress are directly damaging and toxic to the liver, and for that matter, the rest of the body. So that's kind of the nutritional focus for fatty liver disease. And just spoiler alert, that's really the best way to eat to heal any disease. When we're talking about reversing disease, reversing pathology, we need to be a little bit more strict and stringent when it comes down to what's coming in our mouth, and really focusing on the low-fat nature of the plant-based diet and limiting the avocados, the nuts and seeds, for sure the oil and processed fats. But yeah. Great. And also high fiber. Yeah.
Yeah, fiber is important. Okay, what are your thoughts on air-popped popcorn? Well, I would put this in a yellow light food group.
I've never had it.
You've never had air-popped popcorn?
I've had it's been so long since I've had popcorn.
Wow.
We had
it when we went to the What the Health video showing. So I would consider this to be a yellow light food, which is a food that you can enjoy every now and then, of course, depending on your health goals. And I put it in the yellow light category because it is slightly processed. It's not necessarily a very nutrient dense food. It doesn't even really fill you up that much. So it's kind of just like a fun thing to eat every now and then.
It reminds me of, there's not much even calories really when you eat it, because the calories in popcorn come from the butter and the salt and not the salt, but
the butter. So the other thing that is so important is that this corn is organic and non-GMO, because otherwise, regular conventionally grown corn will be smothered in herbicides and pesticides. So you want to keep all of that out of your body.
I realized we kind of fell behind here. So
there are a lot of questions. Well, does Halen was wondering, does that mean that ice cubes or ice cold beverages are bad for the stomachs? No. You can still eat cold drinks. We just recommend that you do it away from your big meals. So, we're drinking
what about like smoothies?
Oh, no, it's not bad for your stomach at all. But, well, did you want to add more to that?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's.
I mean, ideally, I like to blend my smoothie in a way that allows it to kind of get back up to room temperature, because I do put frozen fruit in there. So,
okay, you can keep going. These aren't questions.
Okay. How do you naturally reduce gas and bloating? There's some great tips. The first thing to know is that some amount of gas and bloating is totally normal and healthy. The thing is, it shouldn't be stinky. It shouldn't be painful, and it shouldn't be totally nonstop persistent all the time. But gas and bloating is a consequence of our microbiota, our microbiome, digesting food stuff, digesting fiber. And most people get a little bit of gas and bloating when they introduce new foods, or when they eat a lot of something that their microbiome is not used to really handling. A great example of this is beans. A lot of people say, every time I eat beans, I just get a little bloated, so I never eat beans. And then when beans do slip in, when they're at a party and they do have a scoop of hummus or something like that, they get really bloated. So for those people who tend to get bloated from certain foods, we generally recommend that you introduce more and more of those foods in a mindful, slow, intentional way, not overdoing it, not overwhelming your intestinal microbiota. So also, you want to be sure to diversify the type of fibers that you're bringing in and feeding your microbiome. So not just eating chickpeas, but also eating black beans and pinto beans and navy beans, doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you are really essentially kind of harmonizing and diversifying the ecology within your gut. And that's really the way to totally kind of heal or address the gas and bloating equation. But in the short term, there's also some great things, great herbs that are known as carminative herbs, and things like cumin and cardamom and peppermint and chamomile, ginger. These are herbs that effectively go in and break down the little gas bubbles so that we don't really experience or feel gas too much. So cooking with those culinary herbs can be really helpful as well.
Okay, Linda, our well water is very hard with iron. Is boiling it a good solution since I do not have a water purifier? Well, boiling won't get rid of the iron in the water. It'll still be in there. So really the only way to get the iron out would be to filter it somehow. But, the iron shouldn't be an issue as long as, it isn't too high and your iron levels aren't too high in your blood.
And iron can cause constipation.
Yes.
That's the main thing with iron and water. High iron levels can lead to kind of low grade or medium grade constipation. And then it's like, all right, well, I know I need to drink more water to become less constipated, but then you drink more iron and get more constipated. So it might be something to look into, getting it filtered out. But everyone's kind of got their own tolerance to that iron. So it may or may not be really a problem.
Yes. What do you use to grind flax? We use our Vitamix blender. You can also use a coffee grinder or any kind of blender that you have, really.
What about corn? What about it?
Well, we already kind of talked a little bit about the importance of when you're eating corn, it must be organic and non-GMO. It must.
Except on the Clean 15.
Oh, corn on the cob is different.
Sweet corn. Sweet corn is a Clean 15 food.
It is.
It generally is. It is. It was in 2019. It is in 2020. So your sweet corn, which is corn on the cob, right?
Yeah.
You can have non-organic corn on the cob. But when we're talking about any sort of corn derivative,
or cornmeal, corn tortillas, or
back to the conversation about GMOs and how the main GMO foods we need to be mindful of course, are corn, canola, sugar beets, cotton, and why am I blanking? Soy. Corn, canola, sugar, cotton, and soy. And cotton, of course, is like cottonseed oil, which is mixed with soy and corn oil to make like vegetable oil. All of those foods essentially are markers of totally crap junk food. So by and large, when you see something on the package that includes corn, canola, soy, cotton seed oil, those kind of ingredients just indicate that it's a really low quality food and it's going to be toxic.
Yeah, but and the same goes for wheat, because even though wheat isn't considered a GMO food, it's still sprayed with the same herbicides and pesticides.
Yeah.
And so with foods like wheat and corn and soy, those are foods that some people can do really well on in a whole food plant-based diet, but a lot of people have kind of developed this weird immune response to it due to a cross-reactivity happening in the immune system. And really what that means is that because so much of the conventionally grown corn, soy, and wheat is so heavily sprayed with herbicides, the immune system has associated those foods with an inflammatory response. So even when you eat clean corn, clean soy, clean wheat, your immune system might still react. This is totally reversible as long as you stay away from those herbicides and pesticides for a while, but it can take a couple of years. So some people do better when they leave these foods out of their diet altogether.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about walnuts. Are they good? I've heard they have a lot of omega-3s. Well, the best source of omega-3 fats in your diet and for your body is flax seeds / chia seeds. They're kind of at the top of the list in a league of their own. Then as you work your way down, there's hemp seeds and walnuts and these sort of things that, yeah, they've got a lot of omega-3s, but really, it's not all about just more omega-3s the better, because if that were the case, then we would refer you to take a spoonful of fish oil, which has a lot of omega-3s too, right? Which we know that fish oil isn't necessarily good. The fact of the matter is that what's more important than the sheer quantity of omega-3s is the ratio or proportion of omega-3s in your body versus omega-6 fatty acids in your body. And walnuts, have quite a bit of omega-6 fatty acids in addition to omega-3 fatty acids. But flax seeds and chia seeds, on the other hand, they've got a ratio that's really the most favorable for the body. So we generally recommend for optimal health, for the reversal of disease, that really the predominant source of quote unquote overt fats in your diet is flax seeds. And what I mean by overt fats is just those whole foods where the predominant macronutrient is fat. Things like nuts, seeds, avocados, olives, etc. Flax seeds and chia seeds should be the predominant source of fat in your diet, like overt fat. Remembering once again that fat and protein and carbohydrates and fiber and all of the macronutrients as well as micronutrients and all that good stuff is perfectly packaged in all real intact whole foods, right? So there's no food that doesn't have fat. Mm-hmm. But flax seeds is by far and away the best source to get your fat quote unquote, into your diet. Walnuts, yeah, you can have a few walnuts on occasion, but the more walnuts you eat, the more omega-3 fatty acids you need to offset that ratio that can get thrown out of balance if we're eating too many nuts in general.
Yeah. Okay, what foods are most beneficial for low iron? Oh, well, I reversed iron deficiency anemia through eating a whole food plant-based diet, and we have a whole podcast episode on this. But really, a lot of the leafy greens are very high in iron. A lot of our vegetables are high in iron. And usually, the real cause of iron deficiency is poor absorption of iron due to either, gut inflammation or maybe for women, very heavy menses. But I'd say the majority comes from gut inflammation and not being able to absorb the iron properly from the food. So, so all eating this way will
heal your digestive system.
Will heal your digestive system, and so you will start getting the most out of your food.
And then specifically those foods with the highest amount of iron, the green leafy vegetables.
Exactly,
right?
Green leafy vegetables.
Green leafy vegetables all the way, iron and calcium.
I used to eat a paleo diet so high in red meat, and I was iron deficient the entire time.
For years and years and years. And it wasn't until whole food plant-based where the gut fully healed and where you were getting the right source of iron, right? Because we know that heme iron is very different than non-heme iron when it comes to your body's requirement and utilization and bioavailability.
Yeah.
Non-heme iron can be totally optimally utilized by your body, whereas heme iron is a pro-oxidant, can cause all sorts of chronic diseases, etc.
Yeah.
All right. Helen's got a lot of good questions. If you were to have an alcoholic beverage on a special occasion, what would be the least detrimental to the system? Well, the fact of the matter is that the alcohol compound, ETOH, ethanol, is a direct toxin to the body. That being said, if you just answering your question, the answer would be the alcohol that doesn't have other toxins. Because I know a lot of wines and liquors are made with conventionally grown products that also have herbicides and pesticides and molds and all this kind of junk in there. The organic alcohol that...
Yeah, the organic sulfite-free red wine.
I'm not, I'm not an expert on this topic because I haven't drank in 10 years. But
I would say organic sulfite-free red wine
because there's some nutrients in there.
There is some antioxidants in there, exactly.
Okay.
It's the least toxic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's in terms of alcohol, it's the same amount of toxic, but in terms of
those other toxins, the herbicides and the added sulfites and things like that.
All right, Tamara's got a question about oils. Of all the oils on the market, is coconut oil the best for whole food plant-based?
There's no oil that's best for whole food plant-based.
And coconut oil is the worst for whole food plant-based because coconut oil is the highest in saturated fat. And when it comes to really your metabolic health, saturated fat is the quote-unquote bad fat, even though I really hate saying that, and maybe I shouldn't have even said that, because saturated fat and mono and poly unsaturated fats pretty much coexist. You can't get just pure saturated and pure unsaturated. When you eat fat, you're eating all that stuff. But when if we're looking in kind of a reductionistic manner, we see that coconut oil is the highest source of saturated fat from pretty much any plant food.
Yeah.
So, to answer the question, no, oil is kind of the same, but cold pressed, extra virgin, whatever is going to be
the best oil.
The best. It's all kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
Flax, maybe?
No, because you can't cook with flax. So
that's a good point.
Yeah. So we would say we'd say olive oil. That's what we eat every now and then when we go out to a restaurant.
That's true. When we ask, definitely not canola oil, right? Because we know that's a GMO food. If we do go out to eat at a restaurant and we will ask, what do you cook with? And because they're not going to tell us water, we just water saute in the kitchen. There's no effing way, right?
There's one restaurant in Aspen that does that, though.
Yeah, we like that. But if they say olive oil, it's like, okay, that means that there's a little higher standard. Canola is pretty much junk, garbage, no bueno.
Yeah, in our podcast episode about oils, we kind of rate the oils.
We do?
Yeah, we do.
Oh,
cool. Do you remember that?
Not really.
What happens if you overeat chia seeds? Well, chia seeds are very, very high in fiber.
Soluble fiber.
Soluble fiber. So you might get a stomach ache if you overeat them, and it might mess with your bowel movements.
You guys, I see this all the time, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves. Grind your chia seeds. A lot of people just sprinkle them on foods as like a garnish. And yeah, they're pretty. I get it. But in terms of the nutritional benefits, the nutrients that are locked inside of those seeds, you can't get those nutrients out unless you grind them. Your teeth won't break them. Won't break those little chia seeds.
You gotta free those nutrients.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't like beans, can raw plant protein like hemp protein in moderation be an alternative?
No.
We're being so hard today. Sorry.
No. Well, I don't. So beans, yeah, okay. Beans are like a good source of quote unquote protein. All right, but not really, because protein is literally packed in every single whole plant food. If you're not eating beans, you don't need to get your protein from a processed food. You just need to get your protein from eating more other foods. So if you're not eating beans, that's all right. But we do want to remind you that all of the healthiest, longest living populations around the world focus their diets around legumes. So if you're not eating beans and your digestive system can't tolerate them, whatever the problem or issue is, we do encourage you to consider moving in the direction that you heal your digestive system so that you're able to incorporate more beans into your diet. But until then just eat other real whole foods. Yeah. Legumes, potatoes, broccoli, they all have tons of protein.
Yeah, they do. And to put this into like an example, when I first transitioned to eating whole food plant-based, I didn't eat beans. I was really focused on fruits, vegetables, potatoes. And I got plenty of protein, definitely exceeded the required amount of daily intake. I think I was around 50 grams a day.
Yeah.
So just goes to show that...
I think more than that.
I think even more than that. Yeah, so It just goes to show that there really is protein in every single plant food.
Where are we at? Purified. What is purified and distilled water, and should we drink it? Distilled water means that it's nothing except H2O. Really, there's different kind of uses for distilled water, but when it comes down to your just optimal regular hydration, you should be drinking mineralized water, so not distilled water. Distilled water actually is not really going to hydrate you. So mineralized water either from a spring, from a well that has been tested and that sort of thing, or purified, where in a way that gets rid of all the junk but leaves in the good minerals. And then for extra credit and to give your body really an optimal source of deep hydration, adding a little bit of extra minerals, trace minerals, or ideally a humic fulvic acid supplement. We really love Ion Biome. That gives your body the necessary requirements to get the water deep into your cells where it needs to be. Distilled water. I know some people use it in detoxification scenarios, but not ideal.
Just quickly, did you say no corn tortillas? Corn tortillas would be in that yellow light category because it is a processed grain. So not something we want to make a staple. But this, again, it goes back to the person's specific health status and health goals. These yellow light foods are, not as healing as the green light foods. So that's what I'd say about corn tortilla.
All right. What about in moderation MCT oil? What are you doing with your MCT oil? What are you doing with it? I genuinely want to know. What are you doing with MCT
People
oil?
People supplement with it and they put it in their coffee.
Why? Why do you want to give yourself pure fat into your coffee when you know that the optimal fuel for every single one of the 10 trillion cells in your precious human body is carbohydrates. Why would you want to junk up your metabolism with literal fat, pure fat, that disrupts your body's ability to actually convert carbohydrates into cellular energy? So I don't know. If you want to waste your money and fuel and fund some crazy biohackers with alternative philosophies that don't really correspond with how nature works, then you are free to do whatever you want in moderation. I see it as a waste of money and a detriment to your health.
So, oh my gosh, I just need to speak to this, Tamra.
I know, I saw that.
You're right. We do have coconut oil in the book that we wrote, but we wrote this book, I think, like 4 years ago. Was it 4 years ago? And that was back when we were eating oil because we hadn't educated ourselves on the science of it yet. So we really need to put out another version of our Vital Lifestyle
That's why
handbook.
we were, honestly, for the last few years, I'm like, try not to even bring up that book or promote that book. But you know, if we can look past that, then I guess there's some good tips and pointers in that book.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were eating oil then, and we hadn't looked into the research and science around how oil is not a health food and how it's devoid of nutrients. And you know, we knew it was pure fat, but like, you know, just the thought of cooking without oil seems kind of crazy until we realize that it's totally easy and totally not. And in fact, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who do it all around the world and who are thriving as a result of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I do too much of one food for too long, will I develop a food intolerance? You will only develop a food intolerance if you have severe inflammation in your gut.
Yeah.
And so otherwise, no, but it is a good idea to include a lot of diversity of the fruits and vegetables that you're eating every day. But that being said, you know, we eat several bananas every day and we won't develop an intolerance to it as long as we keep our gut healthy, which we're doing by eating a whole food plant-based diet.
Yeah, that's good. All right, is cacao healthy to use in smoothies? You betcha it's healthy, and we love cacao. We do love raw cacao powder. It's nutrient dense. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. It's delicious. We know that. So yeah, we like cacao powder and, in moderation, cacao nibs, which are essentially just like broken up pieces of pure cacao.
Isn't 2 Brazil nuts a day great for selenium? Yes, it is. That's probably our favorite source of selenium because it comes straight from food, not just a capsule of isolated selenium. So we love them. Why are rice cakes okay to eat when it's processed? I do like it, but I just want to make sure because it's on the shopping list.
We like rice cakes for a treat every once in a while. It's not like we're eating rice cakes every day or anything like that. It's a yellow light food, but the reason why we like it is because if you look at the package, there's one ingredient, organic brown rice. And yeah, it's popped and dried and a little bit lower in nutrient density than a bowl of fresh cooked brown rice for sure, but in terms of a crispy, crunchy treat, if you will, it's probably the best thing in that we can get there.
Yeah,
right,
definitely.
Yeah.
Cooking with organic wine, yeah, that's okay.
Sure, that's a good way to use your wine.
And that's a good tip, Angela. Dr. Greger would say that alcoholic drinks mixed with high antioxidant fruits would combat the alcohol.
All right.
Yeah.
If you need your alcohol, yeah. Avocado has a higher smoke point than coconut. Yeah, I've heard avocado is kind of...
It's not a good cooking oil.
Avocado isn't?
Oh, I guess it is, yes.
Yeah, avocado is like kind of a good cooking oil just based on that. But it's still a totally processed, totally unnecessary, totally detrimental food when it comes to optimal healing.
Yeah, so even when you make chia pudding and you soak the chia seeds, you're still not going to absorb the nutrition without grinding it up.
Chia pudding, I don't get it. I mean, I don't.
You get the fiber, but you don't get the nutrition.
Exactly. It's like a fiber bomb for your gut, which cool. We like that.
Putting coconut oil on your skin is not harmful at all. Your body is not going to absorb that and metabolize it in the way that it would if you were to eat it.
Yeah, not so much. Do you add any liquids to your smoothie, or do you use whole greens and fruits? Just water, right? Am I reading that right?
Yeah. Just water.
Yeah, in our smoothies, no almond milks, oat milks, nothing like that. If we want a little bit of a creamy consistency, we can put some oats in the smoothie, and then you make your oat milk in your smoothie with your fruits and vegetables, but you also get all of the nutrients and fiber from the oats. Don't buy oat milk. Don't buy almond milk. Put some almonds in your smoothie if you want the almond flavor and the almond milk thing, but you also get the nutrients and the fiber from the almonds. That's our recommendation.
Yeah. And if you're making a special recipe that calls for plant milk, you can always just have some of those nuts or oats on hand, so you can just whip up a batch really fast in your blender, and you don't even need to strain it, because
for the most part you don't need to strain it. I mean, unless you're putting it in your coffee or something, and you don't want a little fiber in your coffee, but we love fiber.
Do you want to address Heidi's question?
I have read we should have 0.5 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. As someone who really enjoys weightlifting and has been used to eating animal protein, how is the best way to track the macros? Does one even need to track macros on a whole food plant-based diet when weightlifting? Well, that's a good question. No, you don't need to track macros, but in terms of tracking macros, we like the app Chronometer, however you call it, CRONOMETER.com. And it's a free app that you can just plug in your foods, and it gives you kind of a nutritional analysis of what's going in terms of macro and micronutrients. And so, when it comes to weightlifting, I'm not a weightlifter. I'm not a fitness.
Yeah, you are.
Well, I lift weights, but I'm not with the intention. I'm not a bodybuilder. Sorry.
Right.
But when it comes to building strength, there are a few things that you need. You need energy. You need cellular energy, which comes from carbohydrates. Protein simply does not give your cells energy, plain and simple. And you need lots of hydration to give your body the requirement to metabolize and create energy as well. And you need to move your muscles. So as long as you are replenishing yourself calorically, and my understanding based on other people who do want to build a lot of muscle, it really has to do with calories, being in a calorie excess while you're doing extreme weightlifting is really the way to build muscle.
And carbohydrates.
And on a whole food plant-based diet, that should look like a carbohydrate-rich diet, not a high-protein diet. High-protein diets are simply detrimental. When it comes to, for sure, animal proteins are different than plant proteins just because of the composition of the amino acids in those proteins. But in general, both animal and plant proteins in excess can cause metabolic damage, specifically to the kidneys, and we just don't need that. So, I don't know if I completely answered that, but
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and so
let's see.
I saw a question about eggs in moderation. How are they? And I mean, here's the thing. What we would say is
you can do anything you want.
You can do anything that you want. But what we suggest based off of the science is that eggs aren't a health promoting food. As we mentioned in video number 2, they're high in saturated fat. They're high in cholesterol. They're also high in pathogenic organisms. They also tend to feed viruses directly. So we don't recommend them.
Oh, that's nice, Emily. I've loved all of this, and I'm so grateful for the knowledge this week. You gotcha. You got it. There's more where it comes from.
How do you know when your inflamed gut has healed? You don't have symptoms anymore.
Yeah.
Your digestion feels good.
You don't think about it. You forget about it.
Yeah.
What's happening to my body when I do this plant-based diet for about 4 weeks? Then something is saying, red meat, I crave a burger or steak, LOL. We talked about cravings in
Session number 3.
Mm-hmm. Generally, that's a very common experience for a lot of people to have. They feel really good on a plant-based diet, whole food plant-based, and then, oh my gosh, the barbecue, and it's like, oh my gosh, I just can't resist that steak. And first of all, we're not dogmatic about what we eat and what we put into our bodies and stuff. We're just mindful, right? But a lot of times that craving for steak, for red meat, for animal products is a craving for calories. We have to remember that a whole food plant-based diet is low calorie and nutrient dense. It's low in caloric density and high in nutrient density. Animal products, on the other hand, are very calorically dense. So when we eat the chicken wing, we're giving our body, in those 3 bites, we're giving our body 100 calories or so. Whereas opposed to, eating your cauliflower wings, you need to eat like a whole plate of cauliflower to give yourself the same calories from that chicken wing. And so a lot of people simply over the course of transitioning into a whole food plant-based diet develop, just slowly but surely develop caloric deficiency, caloric depletion that leads to this insatiable craving and hunger for calorie dense foods like animal products. And then they give themselves those animal products and they get energy from those calories and they think that they've been missing out on something the whole time. Hey, it literally, that happened to me. I thought that I was totally missing out on something, but now I know, based on, more understanding physiologically, pathologically, biochemically, on all levels, that really the body does actually thrive on a purely plant-based diet. And my feeling that I was missing something and everyone else's feeling that they're missing something is generally generally speaking, is just a broad depletion of calories in the body on a low calorie, nutrient dense, whole food plant-based diet.
Yeah. So I'd love to say at this point, your questions have been awesome. We are an hour in, and we will still have time to answer questions on Monday and Tuesday next week, especially Tuesday. Tuesday, we have kept open the hour to answer lots of questions. So at this point, I'd love to request no more questions, and we'll answer the few remainder questions that we haven't gotten to yet. But thank you, everyone, for contributing your awesome questions. And remember, you can continue to message us in between sessions for specific questions as well. But let's finish up by answering these other questions. And does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that hour did go by really
fast. Went by really fast.
What other questions?
There was, what about avocados in moderation?
Yeah, totally.
We love avocados.
Totally.
We just recommend that you don't base the majority of your caloric intake off of the fat-rich plant foods like avocado. So, for example, we might have a quarter to a half of an avocado with our dinner at night. And, the other fat that we eat throughout the day is maybe a tablespoon of seeds or 2 in the smoothie, things like that. Ben likes to use the analogy of have your daily overt fat.
It's not an analogy. It's a measurement.
It's a visual.
It's a visual.
It's not an analogy.
But yeah, if you can think about remember, this is a whole food plant-based diet. We're not putting oil in our hand. We're not putting eggs in our hand. But if you can think about what you can fit in your hand in terms of those overt fat foods, being nuts, seeds, avocados, olives, cacao, coconut, it should fit about in the palm of your hand. And anything more than that is okay. Every once in a while you go out to a party and you eat an awesome cashew cream cheese cake and cool, you can, that's fine. But just in general, for your baseline healthy foundational diet, your fat should fit in the palm of your hand.
And like Kimberly says, it also depends on your health goals.
Depends on your health goals. It all depends on your goals and what else you're doing, right? Because I'm so surprised that we haven't gotten any questions about anything other than food.
Yeah.
You guys do remember that food is just one piece of the puzzle. I'm really glad that you are dialing it in, but I trust and hope that you're also dialing in all the other components of your lifestyle that your health and life depend upon.
Yeah. And do we use glucomannan?
I have no idea what glucomannan is.
I don't either. So yay, it's the first time we've been stumped by a question. We're going to have to look up glucomannan, but no, we don't. For thickeners in cooking, we'll use potatoes. We'll blend up potatoes. Yeah. Or we might use cauliflower. We'll blend up cauliflower. Or sometimes if we feel very decadent, we might blend up some seeds or some cashews in there.
I think I saw something about 2 ounces of tofu, silken tofu, in each day in my smoothie. Is that okay? It's okay, yeah. I don't know why you do that. I'm assuming you do that for calories/protein. There's better ways to get more calories/protein into your smoothie. I would recommend putting a banana in place of the 2 ounces of tofu, or a cup of berries, or an apple, or a few pieces of mango, something that actually converts into energy more readily for your body. You can also, what are your thoughts on tofu in the smoothie? And also, maybe you do it to thicken it. In that case, put in like some oats.
I think it's completely not necessary. And as you talked about earlier this week, tofu is one of the more processed forms of soy. So it's kind of similar to like a processed grain in that sense. A lot of the natural fiber and nutrients have been removed from the tofu. So it's a yellow light food.
If I want to thicken my smoothie, the other thing that sometimes I do is put a carrot in. Carrot, like it's not going to be as smooth as your nice silken tofu.
I use more frozen fruits. That's what makes it thick.
But it also makes it really cold.
Well, mango is really thickening because it's got that fiber in it.
It's all and it's cold. And
but even fresh mango.
Yeah.
Emily asked how we can stay involved with you beyond these 8 days. What a great segue, Emily, because we did want to just remind all of you that really how we work with individuals long term, right now you have gotten a really wonderful taste of who we are and what we do. And this Q&A session is a little bit of a taste of all of the information that we can cover with you in our mastermind program.
Except we can also see you and hear you and actually know your background and what you're dealing with, what your life is like, how we can really best support you, not just answer questions. Because you guys, like, all of the information we provided today, I'm so glad we were able to answer your questions. But you probably could have gone to Google, right? You probably could have gone to nutritionfacts.org. You probably could have found answers out there that satisfy your desire for information. So our intention is to not just clarify the information for you, but to actually translate that information into inspired, sustainable action and transformation in your life. Because I'm honestly getting tired of seeing people and witnessing people just hungry for information, soaking in all of this information and doing nothing with it. It breaks my heart when I see all of the people in the world just eating up all the books and podcasts and programs, but not living it. So this program that we've created is our best opportunity to really support you in living it and integrating it into your life so that you can actually feel your best for the rest of your life, add life to your years and years to your life, because you're not going to be able to get that from reading any book or from Googling for more information or watching any other podcast episodes.
Unless you apply it in your life.
Peace, you guys. Sending you lots of love.
Bye for
Till
now.
next time.